Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Countdown to Infinity. This is episode 5. I am James, and I was at a concert last night, and I screamed real good, and my voice is a little hoarse, and I apologize. But I'm here to talk about a movie with Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hi, James.
How are you doing?
Well, my voice isn't as hoarse, so I'm doing all
right. We were hanging out in person like 24 hours ago.
I know.
We should have just recorded in person.
Well,
although I was a little busy and
you had other obligations at the time.
Yeah, that's fair. But hey, we're back. Episode 5. I'm excited. This week we're talking about the very first Captain America movie, Captain America: The First Avenger. This one came out July 22nd, 2011, which is pretty sweet. That was a very long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got here? Directed by Joe Johnson.
That's right.
Based on Mr. Captain America's by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby.
True.
Mr. Chris Evans, Tommy Lee Jones. That dude who was in The Matrix, and then he was in The Lord of the Rings.
Hugo Weaving.
There you go. I was going to see if you're going to name the actor.
It was not apparent to me that was a question, but all right. Sweet.
Yeah, that was a question. Here's another question, Matt. What is Captain America's birthday?
What is Captain America's birthday?
Yeah. Do you know when Captain America was born?
The 4th of July.
You are right. But what year? Don't look it up. Don't cheat.
I'm not looking it up. I'm just thinking it out.
Yeah, that's fair.
He would have been in his mid-20s, early 30s in the 1942 for the Second World War. So 1920 something.
Get rid of the something, and you got it right.
Oh, just actually 1920?
Yeah, apparently born 1920, July 4th, which I love. I love the detail of Cap being born on Independence Day.
Well, that's obvious.
Because of course he was. But yeah, no, I'm excited. This is number 5 in the MCU. We are getting real close to the end of Phase 1, which I'm really excited about.
Next week.
Yeah, next week we talk about the very first Avengers movie, which really does not feel like it was as long ago as it actually was.
Yeah.
That movie is almost 6 years old, which is insane.
Yeah.
But hey, that's next week. This week, let's talk about Captain America. Matt, what happened in this movie? Let's run it down.
All right. So, in Captain America, the First Avengers, we meet Steve Rogers, who, at the beginning of the movie, is encountered frozen in the Arctic ice sheet somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. Then we flash back to 1942, where we are introduced to scrawny little Steve Rogers, who has been desperately trying to join the war effort and help defend America and the ideals it stands for in the European theater, fighting the Nazis, but he's asthmatic, and he's small, and he's kind of frail, and he's not very strong, and he keeps flunking out. So he goes from city to city and tries to falsify his enlistment papers and gets constantly failed and cannot go. And his best friend, Bucky Barnes, is shipping out overseas tomorrow. And so they head out to the World's Fair and cruise around, take in the sights. And while there, Steve decides to give it one more go and heads into the recruitment office at the World's Fair, where he is overheard by Dr. Abraham Erskine talking about how he feels like it's his duty to enlist, because even though he's small and scrawny, he doesn't feel like he has any less right to lay down his life in defense of his nation and the ideals that he believes are right. And so Dr. Erskine allows him to enlist and become part of a secret program known as the Super Soldier Program. So he heads off to training camp where he proves that he is a little smarter than the other recruits and a little braver than the other recruits and a little more, go-getting and humble and driven than the other recruits. And so the drill sergeant is played by Tommy Lee Jones, and Dr. Erskine agree that he is the obvious choice to become Captain America, or their new super soldier. So they take him off as their first experimental subject. They pump him full of super serum. They blast him with Vita rays, and he becomes very strong and big and noble. And the experiment is a success, but there is a German spy among the visitors to this experiment. Dr. Erskine is shot, and Steve runs off to capture the guy who, it turns out, is part of Hydra, and kills himself with a cyanide capsule. So, Hydra is the Advanced Weapons and Research Division of the Nazis, and it is headed by Johann Schmidt, also known as the Red Skull. And he is in the process of coming up with a whole bunch of weapons based on the Tesseract, an ancient magical Norse relic that he found in Norway. And he has created essentially a series of doomsday weapons that he is going to use to wipe out basically everybody. He's going to wipe out the U.S. He's going to wipe out the Nazis. He's decided that he has got world domination on the mind, and he is going to use the backing of the Nazis to take control of the world. So, at this point, Steve is the only successful super soldier. They can't make any more because Dr. Erskine's dead. The Allies are having some troubles in Europe, what with the Red Skull's weapons, but they believe that Steve is too valuable to send into battle, so they put him on the USO tour, and he goes around selling war bonds. In the meantime, Bucky goes on a mission and is declared missing in action. Steve hears about this on his USO tour, and against orders leads a rescue mission, rescues Bucky, is ultimately deployed by the US military as their new secret weapon in Europe. He puts together the Howling Commandos of Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe Jones, Jim Morita, James Montgomery Falsworth, and Jacques Dernier, and they go around attacking all the known Hydra bases. This comes to a head when they ultimately do go up against the Red Skull. The Red Skull deploys his Valkyrie, the giant airplane full of little smart bombs driven by Hydra soldiers, and he gets in a fight. He defeats the Red Skull. The Red Skull picks up the Tesseract and is either vaporized or sucked into the cosmos. We're not quite sure. And Steve decides that he has to bravely sacrifice his life to put the Valkyrie down before it gets over North America and puts all of the U.S. at risk. So he crashes it in the Arctic, and that is how he ended up frozen. And
Hooray.
the subplot I have missed here is the Peggy Carter subplot, where
Yes.
the like British secret agent who's been sort of like his handler through all this, that he's fallen in love with and had a date with at the end of the movie, but he had to miss the date by crashing the plane.
No true love for Captain America.
Nope, sadly not.
Oh well, that's too bad.
I don't know, maybe in the future he'll meet her niece or something.
That's fair. So this is definitely, for me at least, was not a movie that I remembered all too well, and not super fondly. And I mean, I think that's going to be that's sort of the norm when it comes to these Phase 1 films. It's been a while since I've seen them all. It's easy to forget some of them, but having now rewatched all of them now, with the exception of The Avengers, which I've seen at least a dozen times. So that one is very clearly, in my head. Man, this was a good movie. I really, really liked this movie. I liked it a lot more than I remember liking it. I don't remember liking it as much as I do now, which is, I don't know. I think a huge part of it is the cast.
Oh yeah.
I think the casting in this movie is is the best casting that we have seen to date in the MCU, and I think it's probably, in terms of casting, one of the best cast movies of all of them.
Oh yeah, I agree almost completely. The only exception is maybe Tony himself, but Iron Man as a whole is not as well cast as this movie.
No, it's not even close. Like
I cannot.
Chris Evans,
Tony Stark is Robert Downey Jr., but I cannot picture anybody but Chris Evans as Captain America now. Like he embodies Captain America to me in a way that, like, he's just such a nice guy in, like, real life.
Yeah.
He almost does, like, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. rubbed off on Marvel Comics a bit. Captain America has rubbed off on Chris Evans.
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. And yeah, I could not imagine anybody else playing the role of this Captain America. Like, I understand in the weird world of comics that other people are Captain America, but he is Steve Rogers.
Absolutely, 100%.
But then you just have this incredible supporting cast. Tommy Lee Jones. I love Tommy Lee Jones. I love Tommy Lee Jones in literally almost everything he does, and I think he's fantastic in this. And I would love to see them, bringing that character back somehow, some way. I was really excited for when it was announced that Peggy Carter was getting her own TV show, because I was like, man, I do not expect him to be a series regular. Like, we're talking about Tommy Lee Jones. Like, this guy's a huge name Hollywood actor, and probably isn't super interested in doing this TV show, but I would love a cameo. And as far as I know, we never got one.
Yeah.
I don't actually think I ever finished Peggy Carter, but I feel like I would have heard if Tommy Lee Jones had come back. But he was fantastic. Hugo Weaving as Red Skull, again, I love Hugo Weaving. I think he's brilliant, and I think he did a great job with the Red Skull.
Yep.
It's not like, I mean, it's the same as all the other, well, I don't want to say it's the same as all the other Marvel bad guys, but they're not tremendously deep characters. We've talked about, with the exception of Loki, and that's not really much different here. It's just a dude hell-bent on power.
Yeah.
But he was really good. Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter, amazing, and obviously so, because they gave her own damn TV show for a few seasons, which was great.
Yep.
I agree that so when you were saying, were you talking about the casting of Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, or were you actually talking about Dominic Cooper playing Howard Stark?
Oh, like Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark is great, but no, I like the exception in Iron Man is, like, Robert Downey Jr. was brilliantly cast as Tony Stark, but he's like the one character in that movie that you're like, oh, they couldn't have cast anyone else. Whereas this movie, it's just like all the way down the casting list. Every part is like, oh, they couldn't have cast anybody else.
Yeah. And that brings me, there's just one more person we can move before we can move on, or before you can chat about this too. But I honestly, I would probably be willing to put Stanley Tucci in, like, my top 5 actors of all time list. I think he's amazing, and I love every single thing he does, and it's no different here. And it just makes me sad that it wasn't a bigger, longer part, but it fills me with so much glee that he played such an important role in this film. And man, I love my Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, he's so great in this. He's like the moral core behind Steve Rogers in this movie, and like that's an important part.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
I guess so. What did you like overall? I guess let's just chat overall. What did you think of the movie? Has it been a while since you've seen it last, or?
It has, and so I quite like character of Captain America.
Yeah.
The later Captain America movies are among my favorite films in the entire MCU, at least as it stands currently. I like Chris Evans is my favorite part of the MCU. I could basically gush about him all day. He's great. But this movie, again, like similarly to you, my memory of it wasn't super, super fond. I think the first 2 acts of this movie are like top notch. The third act didn't work very well for me when I saw it the first time. There's another one where I came into the theater. It was like, well, there was a lot good in that movie. I enjoyed it. It was an 8 out of 10, I guess, maybe a 7.5. But I never really bought the whole like, well, I need to crash the plane. It's
Right.
like, okay, but you're in control of the plane and there's nobody else on the plane, and the bombs aren't going to go off. They're piloted, so just land the plane.
Right.
And so that put a damper on my enjoyment of it. Like, I just didn't buy the third act really at all. And so, or at least the climax and the resolution of the film at all. But I've softened on it a bit. I watched it again, and it was like, yeah, that's not as big a problem for me anymore. It had to happen. So they could have found a better way to do it, but it doesn't kill the movie for me.
I guess the thing that it's less for me, it's less about the crashing of the plane and more about, and this still actually pissed me off when I watched it again, is that he crashes a plane, and then you move on, you continue with the story, and they go and find the Tesseract. They find this tiny little cube.
Oh, but they
in
explain
the ocean. Well, yeah, but you're telling me that you can't go and also find a pretty giant plane where you have a good idea of where he crashed.
Well, they keep looking. But the line in the movie is like, well, the energy signature ends here. So it's clear that they're like following the energy trail to where they think the plane is, not realizing that the Tesseract has fallen off the plane at that point.
I suppose. I
and
guess
it's like this big, powerful relic, so it makes sense that it would be giving off a huge amount of energy versus a powered down plane, right?
I will acknowledge that, but it does feel a little lazy to just be like, well, the energy signature ends here, and that's, I guess, it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, no, you could probably go find him.
Yeah.
Like,
go south of there. He's probably...
He's your damn super soldier. You're gonna go look for him, kind of thing. But, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So, like, I have a few gripes about this movie, the end being one of them. The other thing... So, like... I love The Rocketeer. I think The Rocketeer is a great movie, and it's the same director in this as The Rocketeer, and you can see like these two movies are clearly family, but that leads to, like, with the budgets being what they were and the directorial style being what they were, it leads to all the coolest action scenes in this movie happen in a montage, and you don't see them.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Like, the whole second act action scenes where it's like, oh, Captain America's going around and blowing up all these bases and doing Captain America things, and you get to see him, like, punch one dude and jump off a tank and, like, ride a motorcycle in slow motion. And it happens in montage. And it feels to me like in this movie they didn't have a good idea how to depict Captain America being... like powerful, but not too powerful. And so they, like, when they do show him doing something cool, there's often like a slow-mo effect, but they don't go full Zack Snyder with it. And so the hits, they have impact, but they don't have as much impact as they would. Like, by the time the Russos take over with Winter Soldier, like, the opening action scene of that movie where he's putting down the guys in the boat, like, every hit just sucks the wind out of the room.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
like I remember gasping in the theater when he like kicked the shield into the guy or whatever, and like they figured it out between this movie and that one. But this one feels a little cheap on those special effects, and like it like almost like they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And the movie is still good. Like the story works really well. I find the emotional impact. So like, I don't buy the scenario very well, but I find the emotional impact of like when Steve is crashing the plane and he's having the conversation with Peggy about how like they're gonna meet up for he's like, can I get a rain check on that dance? It's like, yeah, we'll go a week from Saturday, so you better not miss it.
Right.
And like he crashes midway through his final sentence. Like that's a really good emotional scene that's like tragic and has emotional weight, and the story is all there. It just doesn't, like, the effects in this movie don't hold up as well, and it feels sort of a little off balance as a result of that. So like, whereas like Kenneth Branagh, awesome choice for director for Thor, like absolutely perfect. This one I feel like they almost went a little too low budget with their director, and they like, it was a good idea in terms of like getting that sort of 1940s pulp action war movie period piece going on, but it didn't quite work for me as like an execution on the action capabilities of the character.
So I'd be curious to know if those were decisions made. Like it does feel a little bit different than both Iron Man's and even Thor, and obviously I think a lot has to do with the fact that it was set in the 98% of the film takes place in 1942 or whatever. I'd be curious to know if that's maybe a direction they thought about going. If they said to themselves, this is a movie that takes place in the past and not the present, and maybe we should tone it down a little bit because of that.
Maybe
because it doesn't feel it. I introduced the new segment last week, like what's your favorite gag and what's your favorite silly part, and there aren't as many in this Captain America.
Yeah, there are very few, and they're not like gaggy for the most
they're not.
part.
They're just sort of they're very old school, kind of like, oh haha, kind of things, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I just kind of have to feel like that was a choice that they made, but I don't know if that was necessarily the right choice.
Yeah, it definitely feel like it does have the like 1940s pulp adventure feel. Yeah. But it could have stood to go a little more Indiana Jones.
Yes, I agree with that.
And like it just feels a little over conservative in terms of like what they're depicting. And and like it works. It's not a bad movie by any stretch. I'm being hard on it, but only by comparison to the later Captain America movies, which I think both are all aces.
That's almost unfair.
Yeah. But like it's good. It's good. I like it. I enjoyed it. I was thoroughly enjoying myself watching it. Also, the movie is basically entirely worth it for Star Spangled Man. Like, if nothing else, I remember like in the lead up to this movie, the announcement came out that there was like a full musical number in the middle of this film, and like the fanboy set went nuts. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they do this? They're going to ruin Captain America. That scene is gold. The whole thing, beginning to end, is fabulous. I love it.
It's really good. It's honestly like, I mean, this would be a good time to chat about your favorite sort of gag part. We just mentioned it. And to be honest, like that entire scene kind of works for me, at least, as my favorite kind of silly moment of the film. Because can you think, what were some of the others? Like, I
think my favorite one, so I have a couple, but I think the one that stands out in my mind as my favorite is, where's my helmet?
Yes.
when he grabs the A helmet. Like, that's just good. That's like a great setup for how he ended up with the blue helmet with the A on it, and it just like it's cute and it works really well. Like, that's just a good joke.
Yep.
I also really love, like, at the super soldier creation, Peggy like reaching out to touch his chest really tentatively and then pulling away, like realizing what she's doing.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a great little character moment, but it also is quite funny.
I'm a pretty big fan of when he gets his shield, like the real one.
Oh yeah.
And shows it to Peggy, and she's like, "Hey, what you think?" And she just picks up that gun and unloads.
Yeah. Peggy is a stone cold badass in this movie.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely, she is.
She is so good. It is not a surprise at all that they gave her own TV show, because just, man, did Haley Atwell ever knock this out of the park.
Yeah.
Like, the character is good, but the performance just completely sells it. And like, the interaction between Steve and Peggy throughout the movie is really good. I like the bit early on. One of the other gags that stands out to me is in the first chase after he's a super soldier, when he picks up the car door to block the bullets, and it's got the little star on the front. And it's like the first instance of Proto Shield. Yep. That's really good. But I really like it when he's running out, and Peggy has like shot a dude through a car window at 100 yards. The car has like spun around, is driving her down on the street, and Cap like runs out to save the day, not really sure what he's doing, and just sort of like pushes her out of the way of the car as it's about to run her over, and then turns off to chase it. And she shouts down the street after him like, "I had him!"
Yeah. I love that shot she takes. That's such a movie cliche, for somebody to sort of run out on the street with a gun and hold it up and aim and realize, no, I can't make that shot, or I can't take that shot, or I'm not going to take that shot. And they just sort of stand there, and they let that hang for just that second, not too long, but long enough that you think, oh, she's not going to, and then bang. And not only does she take the shot, but she just completely like hits the driver.
Yeah, she just executes the guy from 100 yards with a handgun.
Holy shit. Like, what? This lady is ridiculous. Like, I want more of her. And I mean, obviously people did, because she got her own TV show. So, man, yeah. I was just sort of pleasantly surprised watching it. I thought, I just thought it was a lot more enjoyable than I recall, because I never really cared about Captain America. That was definitely not a comic book hero that sort of I cared at all about growing up, or even just as sort of the comic book craze of the 2000s had started to get underway. I want a Captain America movie. And then when this came out, I was like, okay, I want another Captain America movie. Mm-hmm. And then we got, probably just two of the greatest movies in the series so far. And I'm really, really excited to watch them. In fact, if anything, this movie just made me so unbelievably excited to be able to get to watch The Winter Soldier again in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm just like counting down the calendar at this point, because God, I love that movie so much. But I guess, I mean, we haven't really talked about. We normally talk about the bad guy.
Yep.
Let's talk about the bad guy.
All right. Which one? There's a couple of them.
Well, let's talk about the big one. Let's talk about Red Skull.
All right.
I really, again, I mean, I'm a little blind to it because Hugo Weaving is great. I love him. And I thought he'd do a really great job. In terms of sort of comparing him to other Marvel bad guys, I'd put him up there, to be honest. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, like, in terms of the character from the comics, he should be pretty good. I think Hugo Weaving did a good job. I don't think they used him very well in this movie. Like, he is the enemy that you have to give to Captain America in the Captain America origin film. Like, there's no two ways about it. You have to put him in. But I don't feel like it had to be the Red Skull in this feels interchangeable with power-hungry Nazi number 3 to me. Hugo Weaving's performance is really good, but if they wanted to bring the Red Skull back and couldn't get Hugo Weaving to do it, they could replace him with another actor, and it would basically make no difference to the part at all.
Right.
This is one of the ones where I think the Marvel problem of not having great villains is like first and foremost present in the movie. Because the Red Skull should be one of the big bads. He should be a character that they can bring back repeatedly and give some interplay with Captain America over the course of his movies. And it's something they've evidently decided not to do. But the result is that Captain America's arch nemesis feels totally wasted in this film.
That's fair.
And but for what they cast him well. He looks great. He's acted well. It's just there's nothing to the part.
That's fair. What other bad guys were you thinking of?
Oh, I was thinking of Arnim Zola.
Yeah,
who comes back later, and he's good. He's
really great, and he comes back in Winter Soldier, right?
Yeah, he does.
And he's great in that movie. I'm really excited to see him in that one again. But he's a really interesting character too. You definitely get the sense that he doesn't really want to be there.
Yeah, he has way more character in this movie than the Red Skull does. Yeah. Red Skull's I want to conquer the world, and Zola is basically a Nazi who is I guess I'm with Hydra now because I don't want the Red Skull to murder me.
Right, yeah. It's I just want to do, creepy science that's going to kill a lot of people. And unfortunately, now I'm stuck with these guys.
Yeah, better go with it.
Yeah, which is, it's you're a bad guy either way, but you just sort of have to feel a little bad for him just for a second there when during the scene with the sort of the high-ranking Nazi officials come and check out what he's been up to, and he just vaporizes them. Yeah,
they realize that he's going to blow up Berlin. And then he vaporizes them. And the other Hydra soldiers around are all like, "Hail Hydra!" And then he looks over at Zola and he's like, Hail Hydra?
Yeah. Sounds good, I guess. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
And then I love the brief scene with him and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, the interrogation.
The interrogation scene is a very good scene, which I really like. And yeah, he's really great. Man, again, just the casting in this movie is just so good. Everybody is just really, really good.
Yep.
And I think that's what might actually put this movie higher on my list than it maybe has a right to be. But I don't know. The casting is an important part of a movie. And this one definitely gets up there. So let's do it. Let's... let's do it. I don't want to cut you off, but I have a little bit of trivia to come back to. All right. We'll come back to the trivia after we rank this thing. So let's do it. So I mentioned this to you last night at dinner.
Yes.
I think if somebody had come to me before we started this, before this was even this podcast was even an idea in my head, and said rank Phase 1, I would have gone Avengers, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 2, the Hulk.
Right.
That's just straight up, I think, what my 6 would look like, what Phase 1 would look like. Having now watched them all, with the exception of the Avengers, which spoiler alert, it's going to be my number 1 come next week. I'm going to change my my mind and say that this now ranks behind Iron Man. And honestly, in the last few days, and I've been thinking about it a lot. There were times where I was like, I think I like this more than Iron Man. And casting wise, I did. And I think that's what was pushing it so high up that ladder. Because at the end of the day, it's an incredibly well casted and acted movie, but it's not as good a story and actual structure as Iron Man. Iron Man doesn't try to do anything super fancy, but it does it well.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier, the ending, it falters. And when a movie has a ending that falters, that hurts everything that came before it. And this one is definitely no different. But yeah, I'm putting this currently for this week, for 1 week, it will be number 2 on my list.
I see.
Where are you gonna put it, Matt?
So I've been struggling with this basically all night, and like ever since yesterday when we had this conversation. So Iron Man is still my number 1 for sure. Then Thor and Captain America fall somewhere around each other. Then Iron Man 2, then the Hulk. And I don't know, I feel like I've got to give the edge to Thor.
Oh, wow.
Mostly because, like, I don't know. I came out of the gate being critical of this one, and I feel like the lack of believability in the scenario created around the ending, like that
which when you compare it,
I know,
which I
but
find a little funny that you're comparing it to Thor.
I know,
which is a movie about a man who flies around and controls,
but not in that sense, right? Like
yeah, I know,
it's like the scenario of like, I have to crash the plane. But why? Why do you have to crash the plane? There's no reason to have to crash the plane. Go, have your date. Versus, like, at least the things that happened at the end of Thor all were internally consistent.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. I like, if I do have to put Thor ahead of it, it's a dead heat. Like, they are real close to each other. But you're right, like, the casting in this one is really good. The acting in this one is really good. When this one is, like, where this one shines, it shines brighter than Thor.
Yeah.
I just don't know that the total product is better.
That's fair. Well, there it is.
I gotta pull the trigger, I guess. So I'm going Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 2, Hulk.
We have deviated.
We've broken the
no
trend.
Longer exactly the same.
Yeah.
Although next week, I guarantee you, we're both going to put Avengers at number 1.
Very likely. Next week, I'm going to come back and be filled with regret for my ranking and want to reorder it. But, yeah. No,
I mean, that's something that we could do at the end of this thing, is, like, sit down and be like, all right, want to change anything? Because now's the chance. You got to lock this shit in for the next, decade.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, no, I feel like that's the right order for
fair.
me.
All right. What was your piece of trivia?
So a little bit of trivia was just, again, in relation to casting, because you were talking about it. We sort of haven't really talked about the Howling Commandos at all.
Right, yeah.
And, like, Dum Dum Dugan is great. The casting there, very, very good. The rest of the Howling Commandos, very good. We have not touched on Bucky basically at all in this entire podcast so far, and he becomes such a central character to the character of, or like, to the arc of Captain America over the next several films, that he's going to be important.
That's why I didn't feel like we needed to talk about him a whole lot here, because he becomes a massive part of the MCU in a couple, as you said, in a couple films. And I was like, I mean, like, he plays his role here.
I mean, Sebastian Stan, well cast.
Absolutely.
And, like, he's not much of a character in this movie other than just, he's Cap's best friend, and Cap feels guilty because he died.
Or did he?
Dun, dun, dun.
He didn't die.
But the trivia that I mentioned is, of course, one of the Howling Commandos is Jim Morita. And Morita is played by... Sorry, I'm just looking for the name of the actor. Kenneth Choi.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kenneth Choi plays another part in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh.
He plays the principal of Peter Parker's school in Spider-Man Homecoming. And in a little throwaway bit in that movie, there is a picture of Jim Morita on the principal's desk as, like, his grandfather.
Interesting.
So, canonically, the principal of Peter Parker's high school, of Midtown Science and Tech, is the descendant of Jim Morita of the Howling Commandos.
I'm just reading the... So, Choi also plays Principal Morita in Spider-Man Homecoming. He is the unspecified descendant of Jim Morita and the principal of Midtown School of Science and Tech. First appears when he catches Peter Parker planning to sneak out during an exam, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like I remember seeing that, but that's a pretty fun piece of trivia.
Yeah, that's just a fun little bit of information that if you're not aware of, it's a cute little callback. I like it
That's
quite
sweet.
a lot.
And I'm pretty sure the Commandos do make an appearance, or at least a few appearances, in the Peggy Carter TV show.
They might. I have only watched the first season of Peggy Carter, and I don't remember it very well. I need to go back and watch the whole thing.
I'm pretty sure they do, which was cool. It was nice to see them come back.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I think that's going to more or less wrap up our conversation about Captain America, the First Avenger. We will be back next week talking about the Avengers, which I am very excited to see.
Me too.
And again, I would probably be willing to put good money on the fact that I've seen the Avengers more than any other Marvel movie.
Yeah, I think I probably have too.
I think I've probably seen the Avengers more than any, and that's just sort of because of it being on TV all the time, and like I've just seen bits and pieces of it for, every Sunday, sit down, turn on the TV, and it's just like, oh look, the Avengers is on again. I guess we're watching this.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine. I love it, and I'm excited to watch again. But thank you everybody for tuning in this week. Appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
You can find myself and Matt over on the Twitters.
Yep.
I am at James_LRR, and Matt is Matt_LRR. Of course, this podcast would not be possible without the support that you all give us over on patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. We appreciate it. If you are not a patron, maybe go check it out. Couple $5 and $10 levels. And look for a bit of a restructure to that coming soon, I would think.
Ooh.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And what else we got? LoadingReadyRun.com for all the other jazz and stuff we make.
Yep.
And Matt streams over at twitch.tv/Matt_LRR.
That's right. And I have a YouTube channel where I host a movie vlog and my VODs for my playthrough of Final Fantasy VI that I'm working on right now. So you can check me out on YouTube by searching my name and hopefully finding the right one. And I'd be thrilled if you would stop on by.
Hooray! All right. And with that, we will say goodnight and see you next week for Avengers. I waited longer this time. See?
You almost fooled me.
I got him this time. I honestly thought was like, if I pause for too long, Matt's going to say something.
No, I was going to go with it. I am aware that this joke is going to happen every single week, so I was going to wait you out.
Excellent. That's good to know. Maybe I'll just add a second to it, or 10, or like 20 minutes. Who knows?
Yeah, you're responsible for editing this, so you have total editorial control.
20 minutes of dead air. I like it.
Why is this podcast like 4 hours long?
Yeah. Let's talk about the post-credit scene. In my opinion, it's got to be one of the best, right?
Well, that depends on how you want to frame it. I was going to say it's probably the worst post-credit scene in the series because it's just a trailer for Avengers.
That's fair. But it's so much more. It just feels like so much more than.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get to the end of this
Yeah.
movie, like the first time you saw this in theaters, you got to the end of it, and you're like, I need it to be 2012 right now.
Yeah.
Why isn't it 2012 right now?
Yeah.
Don't do this to me.
Yeah. But it's so much fun.
Yep.
I don't even. Yeah. I mean, with this one, it's just you're right. It is, but it's so much. It's so good, and it gets you super hyped. I think I'm curious to know. I'd be curious to know if at one point the end of this movie, like Rogers waking up. I'm wondering if at any point that was considered to be the post-credit scene.
Maybe.
And then they
decided that they had to put it in the movie.
Well, they decided they had to put it in the movie because people needed to see it. Because that was obviously very important.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. The end is always kind of like, because as we were getting closer to the end while I was watching it, I was thinking, oh man, the post-credit scene, it's so good. It's like him waking up and figuring out that he's not actually in 1940s and running away and ending up in Times Square. And I'm like, oh wait, nope, that's just in the normal movie. It's right here.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an outstanding scene too. I really like that sequence. It's so good.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. I love that, just running out to the Times Square and the cars driving up and Fury coming out. I think that's why you think, because Nick Fury is there and he's the star of those post-credit scenes. So, but yeah,
it's super good.
I agree.
And then trailer for the Avengers,
and then trailer for the Avengers. But whatever, it's a trailer for. I remember we just losing our mind.
Absolutely.
Like,
that was when you had proof positive that the Avengers was not only like planned but actually coming out, and you had seen footage from it.
Yeah, like I just saw
Thor tap Captain America on the shoulder.
Yeah. It was so good. It was so good. I even still watching it the other day, I was like, I get to watch this next week.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally watch this right now, but I won't. I will stick to my damn schedule of watching these on Sundays, but it works. So anyways, that's going to do it for the post-credit talk. Man, this thing is long. We're almost 50 minutes.
I know. It's like we've got things to talk about.
Time. It's true.
We're going to keep these to like 20, 30 minutes tops.
I knew 20 was never going to happen, but I figured we could do 30 with the understanding that it would probably be closer to 40.
Yeah. We haven't even come close to 30 minutes on a single one of these yet.
No, we really haven't. I think if it's going to happen, it'll happen with the second Thor movie.
Maybe. Where we both like, well, that sure was a movie. Let's rank it. All right. Out.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. All right. Let's take off. We'll see y'all next week.
Alrighty. Have a good night.